And in terms of, I think others have looked at the agenda. Is there anything you'd like to add or change in the agenda? Okay, hearing none, then I would accept a motion to approve the agenda, please. Al moved and sorry, and Graham seconded. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, and then we have circulated the minutes of the previous meeting. Has anyone any changes or suggestions from the previous minutes? Now, I think, well, Al was there the last meeting, and sorry.
Motion to.
Yeah, it was the meeting held March 3rd, March 31. So we were all there. And any suggestions or alterations to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I would happy to receive someone to move the agenda as approved, or sorry, the minutes as approved. Thanks, Terrence. And the seconder. Thanks, Al. And then all in favor?
Okay.
Approved, thank you. And now we have a few minutes for public comments.
Doesn't look like anybody's speaking up from the public.
Okay, Dennis, you're okay. So then hearing none, we'll move to the next one, which is new business and the 2022 water rates updates. So Kristen, I believe this is turned over to you. And you're muted. If you're ever in a hurry to unmute, you just hold the space bar.
Oh yeah, the space bar, yeah.
Yeah.
So we are looking for a recommendation from the Bowen Bay Local Area Service Committee in support or not in support of the proposed consumption-based rate plan. And that will be presented to council along with the minutes and a brief report from myself about the meeting and as well as the remaining other 2 meetings that we had with the other local service committees.
I guess just to point out, you said the rate structure, but then you have indicated it might start at a different time, things like that. And anyway, I think we've certainly talked about the pros and cons of the rate structure. And so it's a question of whether anyone in the on the Bowen Bay Committee would support moving forward with this and would move the motion. I don't think we have a mover.
So you could consider making an amendment to the motion, which is that the committee perhaps does not support the rate structure in principle. In the other local service area committee meetings, we actually broke the motions into 2, and one was A, support in principle, and B, the recommendations or advice given with regards to an implementation plan. So may I suggest that somebody move a motion to recommend that the municipality not move forward with consumption-based rate structure?
I can bring that forward.
Motion would be that we don't support moving to the consumption-based rate structure at this time and would rather stay with the current structure bearing in mind that that current structure needs to increase, as was pointed out in your presentation, right? So,
Yep.
so the base rate would need to go up 13%. Is that right?
That is the increase in the budget that was approved back in March. Yes.
So if that was approved in March, I'm not, okay, so we really don't need to approve anything other than saying this time we're not in favor of the consumption-based approach. That could be the first motion. Steph's going to put it on the screen here. Steph's gone dark.
Can you see my screen?
It's just
Oh, it's dark.
Dark, yeah.
Do you want to give it a sec?
Okay, well, I think the motion's pretty simple.
Okay.
Let's
That
ask
you-
Steph to read what she's got written down.
Oh, sure, okay. That the Bowen Bay Water System Local Advisory Committee recommend that the municipality does not move forward with a consumption-based rate structure at this time, and that the committee recommend that the current structure be maintained with an increase to the rate.
I think the second half is not necessary because the
Right.
budget has already been approved. I think it's just
Yeah.
the first.
Okay. That's right, okay.
And then I would propose after that another motion
Let's vote on this
to
one,
do
John.
with
first.
implementation. So anyway, there's one motion on the floor now, and Terrence, I believe, moved it. And do we have a seconder?
Second that.
Al seconds. And then all in favor? Okay, thank you. Motion passed. And then I would move that we consider this type of structure once we've got plans to move forward with the proposed phase 2, which is going to identify true costs for the Bowen Bay system once we get on with the process of replacing our pipes.
Steph, we can't see anything on the screen, so maybe you could just stop screen sharing.
Yeah, I've clicked stop screen share several times. And you guys are all
All I'm seeing is a big black screen with a nice picture of John. I can go to gallery view.
Yeah. That is weird. You have options.
Computer gremlins at it again.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be so much easier if we met in person. It might have been shorter. I don't know.
frozen.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, we're back to that.
You're back.
It's been tough over here.
I know. Thank you, you guys. This is your third night of doing this. So I appreciate your patience.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
Did you hear me though? Is that the committee recommend that a consumption-based rate structure
Not be in.
the committee recommends that an alternate rate structure, rather than saying consumption, rather than being specific, because what I'm getting at is we want to find out once we're paying for the new pipes and what's the monthly charge, then
Okay.
what's an alternate structure? And to a point that was made earlier, maybe some of it is actually a separate charge that is tax deferred. So I just prefer the word alternate structure to be considered at a later date once planning for the pipe replacement and infrastructure upgrading is going to occur.
Oh, we got to shorten that.
pipe replacement and
General upgrading.
So how about something more along the lines of that the rate structure be reviewed once the plans for the pipe upgrades and other upgrades have been further advanced?
We could, but it's really the further advancement is actually hiring engineers and getting on with it. And so
Oh,
we need to
okay.
find money at that time. We're going to need to find some money to get detailed design. And you know, you're going through this with other systems on the island is, you know, even just to get on with it, like a year and a half before we're starting construction, we're approving quite a large amount of money to hire engineers and go to that next stage. More money than we probably have in our budget.
Because there is already that CREA set of drawings and everything and report done in 2017 for putting in the water mains, the bigger water mains and the hydrants.
Patrick could probably answer that, or I could too, but
Okay, I'm looking at,
Well, how about something along the lines of that the rate structure be reviewed in order to provide the funding for the water mains and upgrades?
well, like right now, we will be doing that. That's sort of what I'm saying, is that we don't consider a change in our rate structure now until we're moving to the next phase, which would be approving funds to get on with the phase 2. And like the drawings right now, Allison, are what they call concept drawings. They're not in any way detailed. They don't tell where you have to blast rock. They don't tell where you know, they're not sufficient to tender and get a price in any way.
So John, what is the end result you want to happen before the next bit of the engineering work starts? You want to figure out where the money's going to come from.
Well, or we'd like to see a proposal of how much money is needed to get on this next stage, which is detailed design. And then we look at, you know, that cost. And if we can get our residents to approve that cost, it gets us very, you know, part way to getting on with spending the money on the big thing. So really, I think.
So maybe your motion is that you ask council to ask staff to provide a report that will outline what needs to be done to get the engineering work done, the engineering design work done.
Right. Yeah. But, you know, we were trying to make it clear, that's the reason we're delaying on changing our rate structure now. We want to get the big picture, the bad news. Because our rate structure might have to be totally different. So it's two-part. I don't know, but I'll step back for a minute. Terrence or Al or Graham, what's your thoughts on what should be that wording?
I can agree with you, John. Really, right now the residents they're familiar with what everybody pays annually for water usage, and not uncommon to expect increases. But I think if we integrate a new the new system that's being proposed, it probably get very confusing, because just as everybody is used to what we have today, and we integrate a new system, it's probably not too far in the future where it's going to change again with the phase 2, with the integration of the new pipes, the infrastructure.
I mean, you can leave it fairly loose and just say something on the lines of that we favor maintaining the current rate structure until such time as the planning for phase 2 is at a more advanced stage. Something on those lines. You can leave it kind of loose.
Yeah, I like that wording.
can you
So
say
that would
again?
be the motion. We favor maintaining the current rate structure
A
until the
favor is
planning for the next phase is more advanced.
Phase 2.
So planning for phase 2.
Is
Is
more
that more-
advanced.
So there is a motion on the books from a couple of from October 2019 that says that the Bowen Bay Water System Local Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to review the recommendations in the water system analysis report by CREAS Engineering, May 2017, and make a recommendation on an option to pursue.
Nail it. been sitting around that long and nothing's happened.
So I think the motion's out there that you want to know what the next steps are and what the cost will be.
Yes.
But we are trying to make it clear to council that we're not being ogres on the rate structure idea. We have a rationale for delaying the rate structure, and that's because we want to get on with something that we approved in 2019. So do we have any other amendments to that motion? Do you want to
It's
read
already
it?
there, so.
Sorry, I need to get clarity, John, because I was behind that frozen situation.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that the committee recommend the municipality does not move forward with a consumption-based rate structure at this time. That has been voted on and carried
Yeah.
unanimously.
Right.
Okay, so the next one then to say the committee favor the current rate structure until planning for phase 2 is more advanced. Is that where we're on with this one?
Yeah, the committee would like the current rate structure to continue until planning for the work outlined in phase 2
The
is
current
more
rate
advanced.
Continue until planning for work outlined in phase 2 is more advanced. Okay, because there was another version of this that sounded very similar to the one you voted on, so I think this one's better.
This is the second motion. So we want, the first motion is already approved and done.
Okay,
So this is the
So-
second motion.
that the committee recommend that the current rate structure continue until planning for work outlined in phase 2 is more advanced.
Right. Okay, who had moved that? Terrence, I think, moved it.
Yes.
A seconder? Al, second. All in favor? Thank you. Now, we haven't been asked to, but I guess the question is what are the feelings of the LEC on the notion of proceeding with phase 1 as outlined in the material provided? That's, in other words, it's proceeding to hook up all 3 systems.
So if I understood the earlier report, we have major concerns around the water leakage by expanding the water consumption by expanding the Bowen Bay production to service the other areas. We have concerns that a leak in one of the other areas will impact us. But if I understood the earlier report, it seemed to indicate that we could supply 2 to 3 times what we're supplying right now without running into any real issues in terms of rationing or whatever you want to call it. Have I got that right, or am I wrong?
Well,
on that?
yeah, I think that's what the report has indicated, but I guess some of us might be concerned if we have an unusually dry spell, or if Bowen Bay or one of the other systems has a major leakage problem, that because we're linked, that we might have to go into water restrictions. And we're not, right now we have a secure water system which adds value to our homes and is important to us. That right now the memorandum of understanding, which is sort of stalled out. I know I attended how many meetings, Patrick? Was it 13? It was quite a few. It's stalled out by the wording that really, King Edward Bay and Bowen Bay didn't want to proceed with interconnection until such time as Blue Water was, well, at that time we were talking about how Blue Water had all their pipes fixed. And that's, I think, why it's dead in the water, because, at one point we were ready to sign this letter of this memorandum of understanding, and then I guess the Blue Water people had second thoughts. So, I think we went through a long process to establish what the 3 systems wanted, and I must admit, I don't know, did King Edward Bay approve moving ahead with phase one?
No,
Even though actually it's not costing them anything.
It's this issue about resiliency, where you mentioned, okay, there's a broader system. What if there's a leak somewhere? I mean, it does work, both ways, right?
Yep.
You've got, as part of this, now you have a very small reservoir storage capacity, and as part of this, you will have access to a much larger storage capacity, which is more resiliency there. And then there's also more wells supplying you than just your own. Like the Arbutus well is similar productivity to the wells that you have there. So there's a larger system in some ways is more resilient for everybody. And that's part of the the reason why this approach makes sense.
Yeah, I think, Patrick, we agree, but I guess the other issue is if we go ahead with phase one now, I think Blue Water has no incentive to upgrade their pipes.
Yeah.
They've got all the water they need, and whereas Bowen Bay has indicated they're willing to get on with it. It's not like we're being selfish. We're saying, yes, we recognize, and we did in 2019, that we're at risk of major leakages and various problems, and we're doing our part. But I just feel if we agree to the link up now, and then until there's another problem 5 years from now, nothing's going to change, because was it $4 million for Blue Water? Which is actually less per household than it would be for Bowen Bay. So I think, I don't know, does anyone else wish to make a motion in terms of what we feel about proceeding with phase one? I would be prepared, especially, to move that we don't proceed with phase one at this time. That we wait again, or just period. We've already indicated that once we get on with our detailed design, etc., more information may come to light in terms of better interconnection ideas, especially if Blue Water is doing detailed design and we're doing detailed design. I think we should hold off on going ahead with phase one, and we're very interested in seeing our fellow water system, or our neighbors get on with their plans to make our infrastructure system more reliable.
So John, maybe what you're saying, and we heard this, something similar from King Edward Bay as well, is you'd like to review the reconsider the phasing of the water system improvements, that you'd be, as opposed to focusing on supply first, maybe it's not supply first, maybe it's distribution first, or something,
or both,
something along those lines.
Yeah, I think, especially if we get on with it and both Blue Water and Bowen Bay are designing their systems, then they concur, the hookup can occur concurrently with the upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
And there may be other efficiencies and nuances that come to light through detailed design.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, okay. So I would propose a motion that we don't accept the phasing as outlined. Would rather phase two proceed first.
Can I maybe switch it to the positive grammar that Patrick suggested, saying the committee recommend that the water system improvement project phasing be reconsidered to prioritize distribution over supply, maybe distribution brackets phase two over supply phase one?
Yeah.
Change the word reconsider to just change.
Change, yeah.
Changed?
Yeah.
So
Can I
the
ask a
distribution,
question?
Yeah,
What was the motion that was passed last night, Steph?
Did they make a motion on this?
I thought they did make a motion on the phasing.
No, this isn't in the agenda. John's just putting this in on table.
I know, but I thought there was one at King Edward Bay last night.
No, they made the two recommendations, one around, the rate structure itself and one around implementation. That was it. But they did have a very fulsome conversation about the concerns with distribution.
That
That's a
the
question.
Mhm.
I had to duck out, but when you say you want to move distribution ahead of supply, are you talking about replacing Bowen Bay water mains before you do the connection? And share
yeah,
the,
Dennis. Yeah, in a sense, well, actually, as Councillor Morris pointed out, in 2019, the Bowen Bay Water System passed a motion to get on with the process of eventually replacing our mains, to get on to detailed design, etc. So that's already on the books. And but more importantly, I guess we're kind of saying it's more about Blue Water, them getting on with their main replacements before we go to interconnecting the system. But
I just like to make a comment and I'll bug out.
Mhm.
I personally just don't think replacing the water mains in Bowen Bay is worth the effort. I mean, from a fire protection standpoint, best you can expect from our fire department, and I've asked this of our previous two fire chiefs, is that your neighbor's house will be saved if you have a fire. As far as your insurance, you're not going to save enough money to pay for that with your insurance. So if you pass that, I guess so be it, but I don't support it. That's my comment. Thank you.
You don't have to do anything, John.
Well, no, I think we do. Otherwise, the way I read it is phase one's just going ahead.
So what you're trying to say is that you don't want phase one to proceed until Blue Water has taken some positive action with respect to fixing their water mains.
Yes, but because we at Bowen Bay can't be seen to be telling Blue Water what to do, we're, I guess, practicing what we preach, and we're sort of saying we want to see the water mains to be more, more resilient and,
Blue Water's water mains.
well,
Well-
I know Dennis and I maybe don't agree, but at some point in the next 10 or 15 years, our water mains will need replacing, like they do wear out. And in 2019, I guess we had this discussion and we had felt that we probably, should accept that and get on with the process. And it still would require a vote of the residents of Bowen Bay to accept the extra charges, etc. But we have done that, and so I guess so maybe just to keep it simple, maybe the Bowen Bay Water System LAC just passes a motion that we don't wish phase one to proceed at this time. And you're a counselor, you can explain to them why.
Thanks.
or have it that we don't wish phase one to proceed in isolation.
Yeah.
John, are you thinking then on the phase two with the new pipes and infrastructure that Bowen Bay would coincide with Blue Water?
I don't know, Patrick.
Or Blue Water first?
It could, but we're not in control of what Blue Water does.
Yeah.
And would there be some efficiencies and economies of scale of doing them both at the same time? I think Patrick felt the opposite. He felt it should be done in smaller tranches, I think was your earlier comment.
Well, there is, one particular advantage being if Bowen Bay was upgrading mains, it would make sense to install the top portion of Windjammer in the Bowen Bay system, the new main and the fill line in the same trench. It's less costly than doing them each separately. But then for the most part, it's not really, there's not really a lot of advantages to grouping projects. It's going to be more driven by what can residents realistically be expected to pay.
Well, what do the rest of the committee think? Do we need a motion talking about this phase one?
I think Steph has some comments captured in the minutes, and so if you don't pass a motion, you're not indicating support.
But
We
we weren't
have-
asked. Well, the interesting thing is we're not being asked whether we support it or not because there's no motion in the minute, right? So that's why I'm struggling with it a bit. Is we're not being asked.
Well, you are, I mean, we brought this forward and asked for feedback, and, you know, we heard clearly what you're saying and what, you know, King Edward Bay had committee and public, as some members of the public as well, had similar thoughts. And so, you know, that's the kind of feedback that, you know, affects how we look at the plan going forward. You know, now we have to, you know, we have to review that before we confirm what it is we're going to bring forward to council. And so I would say, no, it's not a, you know, it's not a foregone conclusion that we'll, you know, bring forward to council that we recommend that we proceed with phase one as outlined, upgrading the Bowen Bay wells to pump into the King Edward Bay Reservoir. You know, that might be, that might not be phase one based on what we've heard. So.
Can we put forth a time frame for further discussion? Can we put a motion through based on that?
Or would there, before you actually decide to proceed with phase one or whatever alternative you come up with, would there be another public information meeting? In other words, you know, yes, everyone can appear at council and make their opinions known, but we all know once there's a council motion, it's very hard to deal with. That's why I'm trying to get, you know, our opinion out there now, because once staff has done all the work and all the reports are prepared and it makes it into the council agenda, you know, it's only very extraordinary events that occur that cause it to sort of veer on course. Of course, we're in what we call silly season, i.e. election year, so anything's possible, but.
So there's no reports planned for council in the imminent, and after the meeting with Blue Water the other night, where there will be going back to more meetings with Blue Water, because nobody has $600,000 to do it, so Blue Water has to approve a borrowing before phase one could happen.
Right.
Well, I think even before that, we're backing up even further here, because what is phase one? You know, in light of these concerns about the integrity of the distribution system. So I think, like, we'll have to, towards the end of this year, we'll have to have you know, a budget review. You know, what are we planning to budget for next year? And we would be, you know, likely budgeting for the preliminary and design work that relates to the first steps. And, you know, whether that's distribution or supply.
Okay, well then maybe we don't
So
need
there
another
would be a
motion. What do you guys, what does the LAC think?
part of that.
Yeah, it's not something that council is going to be considering at the next meeting or in September or anything like that. So this is 2023 pre-budgeting.
Well, anyway, it
discussion.
will be recorded. We'll get some of this discussion in the minutes, which would eventually be attached to some sort of council package when this does go to council. So perhaps we've had a fulsome discussion, and I think, Steph, you probably get the gist. And so we can review the minutes and just get our concern, make sure our concerns were recorded in bullet form. How's that? And that we not have another motion. Is the rest of the committee okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, well then, I guess we get on to other business, which I think we just did, but,
Yeah.
and then, is there any information items? We've got the 2022 Island Plan. Is that just
Just
for?
there for information, not for discussion.
Good, okay. And then question period. I think we've had a lot of questions. Any further questions from the public?
The only member of the public here is Les.
Okay, and hearing none, then I guess next meeting would be, is, as said, is to be determined. But
Determined.
hopefully, yeah. So I would take a motion for adjournment.
We
So
can just
moved.
do-
Thank you. I don't think you need a seconder on an adjournment motion.
Thanks
Thanks a
very
lot,
much.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.